Hello and warm greetings. Welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, where we would try to comprehensively analyze 9 articles in 2 different sections. In the analysis part, we'll first have a discussion with respect to the growing concerns associated with the safety aspects in the Indian Railways. Then, in the second article, we'll have a discussion with respect to the importance, issues and the way forward with respect to the important constitutional position of the Speaker of Lok Sabha. Then in the simplified section, we'll have a comprehensive look at 7 different articles along with the value addition. So stay tuned. Now coming to the very first article, it is about the growing safety concerns in the operations of Indian Railways. So what we saw on Friday was that the Mysuru-Darbhanga train, it rammed into a stationary goods train near Chennai and it has grievously injured a lot of people. Now this gives us the opportunity to discuss the rail safety aspect in great details. Now this is a part of GS3, Infrastructure and Railways. Now before we talk about the rail safety aspects, let's first talk about Indian Railways in general. See, the Indian Railways is often termed as the lifeline of the nation. And since the colonial times, it has contributed a lot to the socio-economic development of the country, right? So if we analyze in different aspects, what we can say is that it is one of the dominant mode of transport, whether it's with respect to the passengers or whether it's with respect to the freight, right? So if you just look at the data, you can very well see that in the financial year 2024, almost 6.73 billion of the passengers were actually transported by the Indian Railways. And the same number is 7.78 billion for the financial year 23. Now, if you just see the freight volume, you would see that it was in the financial year of 23, that the freight volume was 1,509 million tons. And that for the financial year 24 was 1,588 million tons, right? Now, if you look at the revenue breakdown, now see, the whole objective of providing you the data is so that you can enhance the credibility of your answers, right? And you can use these data in your answers. The data is from the IBEF. IBEF, that is India Brand Equity Foundation. You can just search on the Google and get more data from there. So if you just look at the revenue breakdown of the Indian Railways, what you would see is that the most of the revenue which the Indian Railways generate, that is actually on the basis of the freight, almost 67.1%. And if you look at the second component, that is the passenger component, it is almost 26.2%. So we generally have this notion that the passenger revenue which the Indian Railways is accumulating on the basis of the passenger is more than that of the freight, but this is not true. So you have got the freight which contributes the most of it, and that is almost 67%. So if you just combine these two numbers, what you will see is that almost 94% of the total revenue of the Indian Railways is based on the freight and the passenger. Next aspect is that the Indian Railways is the most comfortable and the most cost-effective way for the long distance travel in the country, right? Next is for the bulk goods movement. Take the case of coal or steel, or take the case of manufactured items, or let's say the farm produce. So it is the Indian Railways which actually transports these from one place to the other. Then, if you talk about the socio-economic development of the country, see, Indian Railways, since the colonial times, that has actually fostered a cultural unity, right? It has strengthened the notions of culture in India, right? Because it basically makes people to interact with others. People from one region, they are able to interact with the others with the help of the railway facilitates this, because it makes people to go from one place to the other. Then, if we talk about the market access, see, be it the farmers or be it the businesses, it is the Indian Railways who actually provide the new markets to these stakeholders, right? Be it for sourcing the raw materials, be it for sourcing the new markets, it is the Indian Railways which helps these stakeholders. Then you have the employment generation. Indian Railways directly contributes to almost 1.3 million with respect to the direct employment. That is almost 13 lakh, and more than 10 million indirectly, right? Then if we talk about the strategic importance of Indian Railways, see, whenever you have got the times of crisis, right? So it is the Indian Railways which actually supplies the essential military supplies, or let's say the movement of troops from one place to the important strategic locations. So it serves as a very important tool for the defense aspect also. Next is the disaster relief. That is, whenever you have got the situation of disasters in different parts of the country, it is the Indian Railways which supplies the essential materials or the personnel required to mitigate the disasters, right? So that is what the importance of Indian Railways is. Now, if we look at the magnitude of the train accidents in the country, what we would see is that in the last decades, in the last 2-3 decades, definitely the number of train accidents has reduced. But what we are seeing is that it is primarily because of two reasons. First is that it is because of human errors. Human errors that we are witnessing greater number of incidents of accidents. Second is it is because of the signaling failures, right? So that is primarily, these are the primary two reasons which are responsible for the greater number of the rail accidents. Now, if you go by the data, so the Comptroller and Auditor General, the CAG report, says that from the period of 2017 till 21, almost 2,000 train-related accidents have happened in the country, right? And according to the National Crime Records Bureau, NCRB, the data says that more than 1 lakh people have died with respect to the incidents of the train accidents in the country, right? So the NCRB data gives you the number as 1 lakh people, and the total number of incidents of the train accidents, it is 2,000 from 17 till 2021 by the CAG data. Now, if you go into the recent examples, so we had the triple train collision in June in the Balasore district in Odisha, where more than 300 people lost their lives. Then we had a freight train accident in Aurangabad. So you had got migrant workers. Now this took place during the COVID period. So you had almost 16 to 20 migrant workers who were sleeping on the tracks. And then accidentally the train ran over them and it led to their deaths. More recently, in June, we had a similar incident where a lot many people died in a train accident in West Bengal, right? So these are some of the incidents. Now, what are the primary causes behind the railway accidents in the country? See, the first and foremost is that we have the issue of infrastructure defects. So we have got different railway infrastructure, be it the bridges, be it the rolling stock, be it the overhead wires, be it the locomotives. So these stocks of the Indian Railways, they suffer from poor maintenance. They have aged. And many a times what you see is that there is also the element of vandalism. And in this particular case, there is the lens which the article talks about of sabotage, right? So there may be some anti-social elements who are actually trying to disturb the peace and tranquility. And that is the reason that they have actually attacked the Indian Railways. So that is just an allegation as of now. Now, next aspect is that most of the infrastructure of the Indian Railways, it is based on the colonial times, that is of 19th and 20th century. And this has not been effectively upgraded to match the recent needs, right? Next is that there is the issue of funds, there's the issue of corruption. There is a lot of corruption involved. So we have got different tender processes which take place in the Indian Railways. So that is obviously, there have been instances where corruption has been there. Then there's the issue of inefficiency. So there is inefficiency on the part of the staff. There's inefficiency because of the technological obsoleteness, right? Next is that most of the routes which are being operated by the Indian Railways, they're operating beyond 100% capacity, right? So it leads to over-congestion. It leads to the overcrowding of the trains. And then obviously it has the other ramifications or other consequences in terms of the delay of services, the delay in the timely arrivals of trains, right? Next is that there are also human errors involved. So there have been cases, and many loco pilots and many guards of the Indian Railways, they have complained that they are being overworked, right? And that is obviously leading to fatigue. And this again then leads to negligence or disregard of the safety protocols. And then it can lead to accidents. Next is, as I said, that because of all these factors, you have the cases where the wrong signaling takes place, right? Because people, they're not having their full efficiency. They're not working with full efficiency. And there are cases where the protocols are not being followed because they're highly tired, right? Next aspect is there is miscommunication, be it from the signaling system to that of the loco pilot or to that of the guard. So there is miscommunication. Next is that the staff lacks adequate training or communication skills. And this again leads to human errors and then ultimately leading to railway accidents. Next aspect is the signaling failures. See, signals are those components of the Indian Railways which control the overall movement of trains. And once you have got these signals, once these signals fail, obviously you can have the incidence of accidents, right? So many a times technical glitches have taken place. Then what you see is that power outages have been taken place on the very important lines of the Indian Railways. And then obviously it leads to the accidents. Then many times what we see is, and in fact in the same incident which has happened on Friday, that it leads to train running on the wrong track. So you have the main line where ideally the train should run. But sometimes because of the signaling failures, the train diverts to the loop line, right? To the loop line. And then it can basically lead to the accident. So in this case, what has happened is that already you had a train, goods train, which was stationed on the loop line. But the train which was carrying, which was traveling with a great speed of almost 90 kilometers per hour, it was actually diverted on the loop line and then it rammed into the stationary train, right? Then you have got unmanned level crossings. Now this is one of the aspects. What is unmanned level crossing is that you have the tracks which crossroads, right? And this crossroads without any barrier, right? So you have got the movement of people on the road, and if you have a track which is actually crossing the road without any barriers, you have what you call as unmanned level crossings. So almost 16% of the total accidents which has happened in Indian Railways in the year 2018-19, it was primarily because of these unmanned level crossings, right? So it poses high risk of accidents, obviously, because people are not aware. Let's say you have got the conditions of fog, or let's say if a particular, a bike or a car is traveling with great speeds. So it is actually unaware that whether you have a level crossing in front or not, right? So these are some of the issues, the causes for the railway accidents in the country. Now, what has actually been done to prevent or to reduce these accidents? The first and foremost is Rashtriya Rail Sanraksha Kosh. Now, this is a very important fund. Now, this was instituted in the year 2017. The total corpus of the fund is almost of 1 lakh crore. Now, this is a safety fund for the critical assets of the Indian Railways, right? So, if you have different projects, let's say the signaling projects, or let's say the upgradation of tracks, so that money can be used from this fund so that you can have adequate upgradation of the Indian Railways and you can avert these accidents. Next is that there have been focus upon the technological upgradations. So we have got the bogie mounted air brake systems, right? So these are the new technologies. So the air brake systems is being used in these bogies, and that obviously leads to quick application of brakes. Next is there is the improved suspension and design. Next aspect is that there have been the installation of automatic fire and smoke detection systems in different trains. Then there is the anti-collision devices like the Kavach. So Kavach is an indigenous system, and then it is primarily used so as to make sure that the trains do not collide, right? Then we have got the LHB designed coaches. So for example, we have got the German technology, and the LHB, it actually stands for Link Hoffman Busch. So you have got this technology, which is better than the traditional, the indigenous integral coach factories. Now these LHB coaches, they are anti-telescopic in nature. What do we mean by that? See, if a coach is anti-telescopic, so if you will have an accident, if the coach would, collide with the other coach, it won't smash into the other coach. Rather, it would divert. So that is, it can basically save the lives of the people, right? Next is that there is the installation of GPS-based fog pass device. So what this does is that whenever a train is approaching a barrier or a signaling station, what it does is that it alerts the driver through a buzzer. And then the train can basically reduce its speed, right? And the driver can be aware that yes, there is a barrier, or there is a level crossing which is being approached, or there is a signal which is being approached. Next is that there have been focus upon the renewal of the track structure. So we have got the pre-stressed concrete sleepers, right? So they are very tough in strength. Next is we have got higher ultra tensile strength tracks, right? Next is that we have got ultrasonic flaw detection system. See, again, if you have a crack, a very minute crack in the track, then it can obviously lead to accidents. But how to detect that? So we have got a non-destructive technique, right, with the use of ultrasounds. So with the help of ultrasounds, what we are doing is we are actually detecting that crack, and it is with respect to the ultrasonic flaw detection, right? Next is that because of the interlocking system, what we are actually using is the electrical or electronic devices to operate the points and signals from a central location. Now, with the help of these interlocking systems, you are basically eliminating the need of manual intervention by the humans in the signaling aspect. Next is that progressively there has been the objective of the government to eliminate these unmanned level crossings, because as I told you that it is one of the important reasons for the deaths or the rail accidents in the country. Now, what should be done to enhance the rail safety in the country? The first and foremost is investing more in safety related works, right? So be it the upgradation of the tracks, be it the upgradation of the signaling systems, be it the training of the staff, we need a lot of funds. We need a lot of funds so that they can be adequately invested in different domains, safety aspects. Next is regular and comprehensive training of the railway staff. Very important. See, we have got these new technologies, be it the Kavach, right? Or let's say the infusion of artificial intelligence or other systems. The staff needs to be adequately trained with respect to these equipments, these systems or these new technologies, so that they can effectively use these technologies, right? And make sure that they avert these accidents. Next is these level crossings, unmanned level crossings need to be completely done away with, right? So we have got the road over bridges, or we have got the road under bridge. So for example, you can just see a road under bridge, right? So these should be installed. These should be made at a rapid pace so that you can completely eliminate these unmanned level crossings. Next is we need the adoption of advanced technologies. For example, as I said, the installation of Kavach. So Kavach is a purely indigenous system. So that should be still what we see is that the Kavach system has not been implemented fully at all India level. So that needs a faster implementation. Next is there has to be a creation of a legal railway safety authority, right? So we need to have a proper body which has a mandate to set these standards of the safety, which has a mandate to ensure that protocols are being followed, which has a mandate to conduct the safety audits of the Indian Railways, right? Next is regular safety audits and inspections. This is very important. And this too by third party, right? So you can have a proper accountability and transparency norm in place. Next aspect is enhancing coordination and communication. Very important. See, we have got the railway board. Then we have got different zones of Indian Railways. Then we have got different divisions. Then we have got production units, for example, integral coach factory. Then we have got different research organizations by the Indian Railways. So there needs to be adequate coordination and communication among these pillars of the Indian Railways. And that can ensure a very facilitative approach, a very smooth approach. And this can ultimately avert these accidents. See, again, what we are saying is that for years, Indian Railways has helped to enhance the overall economic growth of the country. It has led to cultural, unity in the country. But there are issues with respect to the railway safety, especially in the last 2-3 years. There have been many accidents taking place, primarily because of the signal failures, or let's say in this case, you have the lens of the sabotage, which can also be involved. Again, what needs to be there is we need to adopt these practices, and whatever the policies which the government is implementing, that needs a robust implementation, right? So that is what you need to know with respect to this particular article. Now, before going to the next topic, we have a mains question. So the question says that Indian Railways since colonial times has served as the lifeline of the nation. However, in the last few years, there have been serious issues with respect to the rail safety in particular. Discuss. So do write a particular answer on this question. Now, before we switch to the next topic, I have 3 important questions for you in order to assess your UPSC preparation. So you need to just tell me these 3 questions. The first question is that tell me who is the chairman of the Financial Stability and Development Council, right? Who is the chairman of the Financial Stability and Development Council? The second question is, tell me the number of states which surround the country of Bangladesh, right? So how many Indian states surround the country of Bangladesh? If possible, do give me the names also. Third question is, which international organization publishes the Travel and Tourism Development Index? I'm repeating. Which international organization publishes the Travel and Tourism Development Index, right? So first question is very simple. FSDC, who heads the FSDC, Financial Stability and Development Council. Second is how many states surround, or they basically, share border with the country of Bangladesh. And the third question is that which international organization publishes the Travel and Tourism Development Index? Do answer in the comment section. Let me see who answers first in the comment section. So coming to the next topic, it is with respect to the very important constitutional position of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. So what we have recently come to know is that the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla, would lead a parliamentary delegation to the 149th Inter-Parliamentary Union Assembly, which is slated to be held in Geneva next week. So this gives us the opportunity to discuss this office of the Speaker in great detail, the issues and the way forward to deal with it, right? Now, this is a part of GS2, that is Parliament and State Legislature, structure, functioning, conduct of business, powers and privileges, and issues arising out of these. Now, if we talk about the position of the Speaker, so we can say that the Speaker is the constitutional and ceremonial head of the House, that is of the Lok Sabha, right? And he is vested with a lot of powers and prestige with respect to the overall functioning of the Lok Sabha, right? Now, if you go into the origin of this particular office, you would find that it was the Government of India Act of 1919, right? And at that time, the name which was used to address this particular position was that of the President. But we had the Government of India Act of 1935, which changed the nomenclature from President to that of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Now, the position of the Speaker, it derives its authority and powers primarily from three sources. The very first is the Constitution of India. The second is the rules of procedure and the conduct of business of the Lok Sabha. And the third is the parliamentary conventions. Now, what do we mean by parliamentary conventions? See, parliamentary conventions are the unwritten or unspecified aspect of parliamentary functioning. They are not written anywhere, but they are a part of the parliamentary functioning, right? These are the conventions. Now, how the Speaker is elected? So the Speaker is elected by the simple majority, that is a majority of those present and voting. And by convention, what we have seen is that the Speaker is primarily from the majority party. But it does not mean that always the Speaker has been from the majority party. So I'll give you two instances. First is that of the GMC Balayogi, right? And that is, the next is Manohar Joshi. So right, we had this 12th and the 13th Lok Sabha, where these speakers were not from the ruling party. And by convention, what we see is that the Deputy Speaker is from the opposition. Next is that when the Lok Sabha is actually dissolved, the Speaker remains in his office, right? And he vacates his office just before the first ring of the newly constituted Lok Sabha, right? How the Speaker is removed? The Speaker is removed by effective majority. That is, you have the subtraction of the vacancies and then you get the effective number. So with the effective majority, the Speaker is removed, but only through a resolution with a notice of 14 days given in advance, right? Now, the Speaker can also be removed if he is disqualified for being a member of the Lok Sabha on the basis of the provisions of the Representation of People's Act. Next is that he can also give his resignation to the Deputy Speaker. Very important. So always remember that the Speaker gives his resignation to the Deputy Speaker. Next is that he is assisted by the Secretary General of the Lok Sabha for the overall administrative functioning of the Lok Sabha, right? Whatever the business is being carried out in the Lok Sabha, he is assisted by the Secretary General of the Lok Sabha. Next is that whenever you have got the Speaker who is absent, the work is then performed by the Deputy Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Then you also have a panel of chairmen, which presides over the House in the absence of both Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. Let's say you have got both the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker who are absent. So any one of them, any one of these panel of chairperson can actually preside over the meeting. Now, when you have this particular Deputy Speaker and the Speaker, the offices, when they are vacant, then a person from this panel of chairperson cannot preside. Then who decides that which person would actually preside the meetings of the Lok Sabha? It depends on the President. So then the President decides. Now, what are the roles and responsibilities of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha? The first and the foremost is that he presides over the House. Please understand that in the House, he is the supreme leader, right? He is the most important figure in that particular House, in the Lok Sabha. And it is his will. It is his interpretation of the documents, be it the Constitution of India, be it the rules of procedure, be it the other parliamentary conventions. It is his opinion which is the final word, right? So he ensures that there is proper decorum in the House. He maintains the disciplines, right? Next is that he decides the agenda. He actually decides what all things would be in discussion on the floor of the House, right? Next is, as I said, that he is the final authority to interpret the provisions of the Constitution, to interpret the provisions with respect to the rules of conduct, rules of procedure, and the conduct of the House, or be it the parliamentary proceedings. Next is, he permits different motions, be it the non-confidence motion, no confidence motion, or be it the other substantive motions. It is with respect to his permission when these motions are placed in the House. Next is that he enforces the quorum. That is the minimum number of people who are required to conduct the proceedings, to conduct the business of the House, right? And he takes adequate disciplinary actions, right? So if he sees that a particular member is not behaving in a proper conduct, is not having a proper conduct which is expected out of the member of parliament, then he can actually discipline that particular person. So in the absence of quorum, what he can do is he can either suspend the meeting or can adjourn the House. Next is that he has the power of punish, as I just told you. He is also the deciding authority with respect to the 10th schedule, right? With respect to the anti-defection. So we have got the anti-defection law, which is the 10th schedule. So he is the final authority to decide the disqualification with respect to the anti-defection. Also, we have got one of the very important two provisions which are not mentioned here. First is that it is the speaker who decides whether a particular bill is a money bill or not. Everybody knows that. And the second important aspect is whenever you have a joint sitting, it is the speaker who presides over the joint sitting of the two houses of the parliament, right? So just remember that it is decided by the speaker whether a particular bill is a money bill or not. And the second aspect is that whenever you have a joint sitting of the both houses, it is the speaker who presides. Next aspect is with respect to the constitution of parliamentary committees. See, all the parliamentary committees, they function under the overall supervision of the speaker of the Lok Sabha, right? So he directs the functioning of these committees. Next is the chairman is nominated by the speaker of many of these committees. The Business Advisory Committee, the General Purpose Committee, and the Rules Committee, they are actually headed by the speaker himself, right? Next is when we talk about the privileges of the House, right? So please always remember that it is the speaker who acts as a guardian of the rights and the privileges of the members of the House, of its committees, right? So it is the speaker who is actually the guardian of these rights and privileges. Now, it is the speaker's decision to refer any matter for the inquiry or investigation to the committee of privileges. So ultimately, it is a decision of the speaker. Next is when we talk about the administrative aspects, what you can see is that he is the head of the Lok Sabha Secretariat. So the Secretary General of the Lok Sabha, he reports to the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, right? So he has a lot of powers with respect to the overall administrative functioning of the Lok Sabha. Next is he oversees whether the security arrangements are adequate or not. And he can advise or he can give directions with respect to these security arrangements. Next is with respect to the inter-parliamentary relations. So as we just saw in this particular article, that he is the ex-officio president of the Indian Parliamentary Group, and he is the one who is actually leading the Indian delegation to the Inter-Parliamentary Union. Next is that he chairs the Conference of Presiding Officer. So we have got different legislative assemblies, right? So we have got the speakers of these legislative assemblies in different states. So whenever you have got the conference, it is the Speaker of the Lok Sabha who actually chairs the Conference of the Presiding Officer. So these are the roles and responsibilities of the speaker. So you can just see that he is vested with a lot of powers. The position is very important, right? Now, what are the provisions there which actually ensure the independence and impartiality of the speaker? So if you are giving a lot of powers, if the domain of powers is too much, obviously you will have to secure the independence and impartiality of the particular position, that is the speaker. First is that he is provided with the security of tenure and can be removed through a specified procedure, right? So 14 days advance notice has to be given, and only with respect to the effective majority, the speaker can be removed. Next is the salaries and the allowances. They are actually charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. They are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. It means it is not subject to the annual vote of the parliament, right? Next is his work and conduct cannot be discussed except on a substantive motion. Nobody can stand up and criticize the speaker, right? So it is only when you have a particular motion in place, a substantive motion, you can discuss or criticize his conduct. Otherwise, nobody is allowed to discuss or criticize his behavior. Next is his powers of regulating the procedures or conducting business. They are not subject to jurisdiction of any court, right? So here what you see is a very important aspect of separation of powers, right? So no court can discuss the conduct or the approach of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. He cannot vote in the first instance. he can only have a casting vote, and that too in case of a tie, right? Whenever you have a situation of equality of votes, only then the speaker can cast a vote. Next is that he is placed at a very high rank, right? If you talk in terms of the table of precedence, he is placed at an equal position to that of the Chief Justice of India, right? At the 6th position. So therefore, this position is very important. Now, what are the issues associated with the office of the speaker, right? See, again, my objective is to make you understand the different aspects of this particular topic, right? Different aspects which are important for the exam. So that's the reason we are discussing this particular office in great detail. Now, what are the issues? The first is the partisanship issue, right? See, many a times there have been accusation of bias. Many a times, and that too specifically the opposition has alleged that the speaker is acting on the directives of the ruling government, right? And again, the Supreme Court in the very famous Kyoto Holohan versus HLU in 1993, it highlighted the instances where the speaker has favored the ruling party, right? Now, see, we all know that the speaker has been given two very important powers, right? First is to decide whether a particular bill is a money bill or not. Second is to decide on the cases of the disqualification with respect to the anti-defection law, right? Now, these are the two very important discretionary powers which the speaker has. Many a times in the legislative history of India, what you would see is that the speaker has not acted impartially. He or she has acted on the directives or on the agenda of the ruling government. So these are some of the very bad instances when you talk about the overall functioning of this office. Next is that in 2017, the Supreme Court directed the Manipur Legislative Assembly, the speaker, to resolve the case of disqualification within 3 weeks. But the case, the defection complaint, was pending for years. Next aspect is the prioritizing party interest over the national interest. See, the speaker has the power to basically drive the agenda of the house. He has the power to allow a particular member to speak, right? So when you can, if a speaker is actually restricting the debates, if he is restricting the participation of the members of parliament in a particular discussion, that is obviously harmful for the overall democratic functioning of the country, right? And again, there have been instances where the time period of the speech of the, especially the oppositions, they have been reduced, right? They have not been given equal opportunity to speak on the floor of the house. So this is a very concerning issue. Next is increased disruptions and stalling of proceedings. See, whenever the opposition or any section of the parliament, it finds that the speaker is biased, it can lead to frustration and disruptions. So you often see that the members of parliament, they fall into the well of the house, they protest. And this is obviously not good, right? Because again, the parliament as a body is a very important tool for deliberation, is a very important tool for discussions on the floor of the house. But if you have such disruptions, primarily because of the actions of the speaker, then obviously it is not a good scenario. Next is bypassing committees and scrutiny. See, the speaker can basically make a bill to rush, right, to give it a clearance. So that is something without a proper committee review. See, again, we have the structure of parliamentary committees so that there can be proper scrutiny of these legislative enactments, right? So again, whenever you have such a scenario where there is a rush to passage of the bills, it compromises the overall legislative aspects, right? For example, we had the passing of the 3 farm laws in 2020. So these are some of the issues with respect to this particular body, right? Next is what have been the judicial provisions with respect to the office of the speaker. The first is in the Kyoto Holohan versus HLU case of 1993, the Supreme Court declared that the decision of the presiding officer with respect to the disqualifications under the anti-defection, that is 10th schedule, is subject to judicial review, right? That is, if the court finds that the decision of the speaker is based on malafide, is based on perversity, then it can basically take a prompt action, a proper action. Next is the Keshram Megachandra Singh versus the Honorable Speaker of the Manipur Legislative Assembly and others, case of 2020. Here the Supreme Court said that the decision with respect to the disqualification under the anti-defection should be within a specified time period. That is, arbitrarily, there cannot be extension of this time period. The speaker has to give the decision within a specified time period. Next is the Navam Rabia versus Deputy Speaker case of 2016. Here the Supreme Court said that a speaker should not decide the disqualification cases if a notice of his removal is being pending in the house, right? So if there is a notice which is pending with respect to the removal of the speaker, so the speaker should not decide the disqualification cases with respect to the anti-defection law. The next case is with respect to Subhash Desai versus Principal Secretary, Government of Maharashtra. So in this particular case, the Supreme Court directed the Maharashtra Assembly Speaker to give his verdict fast, right? There should not be any arbitrary stop on his decision, right? So he should not prolong the decision, rather he or she should give decision as soon as possible, right? So these are some of the cases which are very important when we talk about the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Now, what should be the way forward with respect to the office of the Speaker? First is that the main task or the main objective of the Speaker is to maintain the stability, right? Because see, we have got a political scenario, and especially as of now, we have a coalition sort of government where you have got different members of parliament from different political party. So there is a complex political dynamics. And over here, if the Speaker would remain impartial, and if he or she would exercise the fairness, then obviously it would be critical for decisions on issues. So see, again, Parliament as a body, it takes the most important decisions with respect to the governance of the country, with respect to the important issues which the country is facing with, right? So there has to be an over there in the Parliament, in the Lok Sabha, you have the Speaker as a presiding officer who is heading a very important chair. So the impartiality and fairness of the Speaker becomes very important. And so that he or she can ensure that there is proper democratic functioning of the Lok Sabha. Next is, the Speaker has a very important role with respect to resolving dispute. As I said, that in case of coalition government, what we are seeing is that there would be conflicts and disputes, and these are inevitable. But the Speaker should uphold the impartiality in mediating these disputes. Whenever you have got opposite factions in the Lok Sabha, so Speaker has a responsibility to mediate, right? And not to basically fire the debate over there, right? Next is impact on legislative outcomes. Pranab Mukherjee, the former president of India, he once said that the Speaker's role is not just about running the House. It's about being a bridge between the government and the opposition and ensuring that the democratic process is upheld. So again, the Speaker is not the Speaker of the ruling party. Please understand. He is the Speaker of the whole Lok Sabha, right? And he has, for him, everybody is equally important. Ideally, they should be equally important, right? Next is ensuring the non-partisanship. Very important. See, whenever the Speaker, through his conduct, shows or manifests the idea or the ideals of impartiality, then it becomes very important. For example, we had the N. Sanjeeva Reddy. So it was in 1967 that N. Sanjeeva Reddy, after becoming Speaker, he resigned from his party. So these examples should be emulated by the other speakers. Next is, in Britain, the Speaker is strictly a non-party member. So whenever you have a Speaker who is elected, then he or she has to resign from the party. So these instances can also be copied in India. Again, what we are saying is that Speaker is one of the most important pillars of democratic functioning of the country. As the name of the topic is that he is the guardian of the democracy. So again, as the position is very important, therefore the Speaker should act in an impartial manner, in a fair manner, and ensure that all are given equitable opportunities, right? He should not be biased, especially with respect to in favor of the ruling party. So that is it what you need to know with respect to this particular office. Now, before we go to the next topic, we have a mains question. The question says, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha is not just the presiding officer of the House, but in true sense, the guardian of democracy. Elaborate along with some Supreme Court's judgment. 15 marks, 250 works. Do write a particular answer to this question. Now, coming to the simplified section, we have got the first article. Now, this article talks about the issues with respect to ASEAN-India free trade deal. So again, please understand, the crux of the article is that it was in the year 2009 that India signed a free trade deal with that of the ASEAN, thinking and expecting that both sides would have a win-win situation. But now what we have found is that India is not reaping the benefits which the ASEAN countries are actually reaping. And in fact, India is suffering losses in this particular deal. And this has been primarily attributed to two things. That is, the Chinese products, they are being rerouted to India through the ASEAN, right? Next is that there has been a slew of investments, a lot of investments made by the Chinese in the ASEAN countries, right? And that is basically giving them the opportunity to export more products, right? So other reasons have also been pointed out. For example, the tariff rates in India are quite high as compared to that of the ASEAN, right? So it basically gives more opportunity for the ASEAN to basically export to India, right? And again, the Indians cannot export to that of the ASEAN. So these are some of the issues which this article would try to cover. So what we are seeing is that the Prime Minister Modi, he has said that we are going to review this particular trade deal, right? So the Prime Minister Modi's 10-point plan to enhance the cooperation between the two sides, it also talks about the reviewing this particular trade deal. So one of the important reasons for this progressive shift has been the trade balance in favor of the ASEAN, right? Again, what we are saying is that the trade balance has shifted to that of ASEAN and the trade deficit is increasing on India's side, right? Simultaneous increase in the investments from the China in the 10-member bloc. That is, there has been a continued increase of Chinese investments in ASEAN countries. Next is, as I said, that the India-ASEAN trade deal was signed in 2009. Now, ASEAN has become an important source of input materials for the Indian industry. For example, we have got the palm oil, we have got the natural gas. They are sourced from countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, right? And then we have got the other items like rubber, which is sourced from Thailand. However, what we are actually witnessing is that the Indian industry has progressively, it has been saying that anti-subsidy measures should be actually imposed on the industrial products which are actually coming from Asia, right? On the grounds that the Chinese products are being rerouted through the region to claim the benefits under the India-ASEAN trade deal. Very simple. So Chinese cannot export directly to India. Like if they want to access these benefits, see, they can export directly to India. But what I'm trying to say is that if they want to access the benefits wrongly, that is the benefits of the India-ASEAN trade deal, what they're doing is the Chinese are first exporting to Asia. And then those products are being exported to India. And then the benefits is actually accruing to the Chinese. Then the trade deficit between the two regions is rapidly rising, right? Now, there has been a fresh surge in imports and ASEAN has joined the China-led RCEP. Now, this is an important opportunity to discuss what RCEP is all about. We'll discuss that. Now, India actually, it came out of the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, because it had concerns with respect to market access and other intellectual property and other issues. So that was the reason that it wasn't inclined to join a China-led initiative. Then China-ASEAN bilateral trade is growing at almost 15% in the year 2022, right? So these numbers are quite high. Now, let's talk about the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. What this particular partnership talks about, that it is a free trade agreement among 15 Asia-Pacific countries, including the 10 ASEAN countries. And then we have got the 5 major economies. So we have got China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand. So in total, you have got 15 members. Next is, this was signed in the year 2020 and it covers almost 30% of the global population and almost equally 30% of the global GDP. And thus it makes the RCEP the largest trade bloc in the world. Do remember, it can be important for the prelims that the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership is the largest trade bloc in the world. So the agreement, it primarily focuses upon different areas, for example, lowering the tariffs, promoting trade and investments, streamlining the rules of origin, very important, right? So again, the rules of origin. If India wants to know that from which country this product, the major part of this product has come from, it can impose the rules of origin, right? So obviously, in the investigations, when a country wants to find out whether a particular product has come. Now, in this case, what we are seeing is that the Chinese products are being rerouted through the Asian countries. So with the application of the rules of origin, we can see that whether the product, it originated in the Asian countries or whether it has been rerouted from the Chinese. So that is Chinese mainland. So that is what the rules of origin do. Next is that it also covers easier market access within the region. Now, it also covers other areas, for example, intellectual property, e-commerce, competition policy, and other SME enterprises, that is small and medium enterprises. Now, the RCEP is projected to boost the global income by $186 billion by the year 2030 and almost 0.2% of the GDP of its member countries. India opted out of the RCEP because it had concerns with respect to the market access and then the adverse effects on its domestic industry. See, please understand that we are a labor-intensive country. We are not that technologically intensive, and therefore, as of now, we are not in a position to compete with the players of these countries, including that of China. So therefore, India had genuine concerns, and obviously, this is a China-led initiative. So there were other concerns also, and that is the reason India didn't join this RCEP. Now, this particular article says that this particular FTA has only benefited the ASEAN countries. So what we are seeing is that because of that, the review has to be done. But the review of this deal is taking place very slowly, right? And this deal is seen to disproportionately benefit the ASEAN over India. Now, if you look at the trade deficit, what you would see is that in the financial year 23, it was almost $44 billion. So look at this, the trade deficit between India and that of ASEAN, right? So India had a trade deficit of almost $44 billion. And the same amount in 2016 was just around $10 billion, right? So this is a huge number. And it also says that it was $8 billion in the financial year 13. Now, also, we have got other research paper, for example, by Indian Economic Service. Now, this says that the 10 ASEAN nations between 91 and 2020, imports have grown, exports have declined since 2010, right? So, what the paper says is that slowly with time, what we have seen is that imports from ASEAN to India have been increasing and the exports have declined, right? India's experience with ASEAN may have influenced its decision to opt out for the China-led RCEP. So this might also be one of the reasons that India didn't join the RCEP, right? Next is that there have been, it talks about the tariff situation in the country. It says that the high tariffs in India and fewer trade agreements have enabled the ASEAN to benefit more from the trade deal compared to India. So the tariff structure in India is quite high, right? And therefore, it does not give the adequate advantage to the domestic producers in the country, right? So it says that the tariff preferences enjoyed by the ASEAN countries in Indian market, according to the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement, have been much greater than those Indian companies which receive in the ASEAN market. He added that the predominance of the Chinese products in both the Indian and Asian markets has affected the full benefits each region could derive from its other markets. So again, Chinese products are actually, they're dominating, be it the Asian market or be it the Indian market. Next is the ASEAN-China Free Trade Agreement. It grants China the deeper access to the Asian markets and enjoys and the benefits which India and ASEAN enjoy. It enjoys more benefits than this particular deal, right? And therefore, it faces relative disadvantages. That is, India faces related disadvantages when compared to the benefits which China get in ASEAN, right? Next aspect is that there have been the anti-dumping probe. So, the rising presence of Chinese investments and products in ASEAN has raised concerns with respect to rerouting of the Chinese products through the ASEAN in India. So you have got Chinese products which are not directly coming, but rather they're being rerouted through the ASEAN. And therefore, they are also enjoying the benefits of the India-ASEAN free trade deal. So the Commerce Ministry has actually initiated anti-dumping investigation last month on the steel products which have come from Vietnam. Then the Economic Survey has also noted that there is the increase in the global trade through Mexico and Vietnam. And this is primarily because the Chinese firms are rerouting their supply chains through these countries. Next, what the Economic Service said, that China dominates the supply of several critical minerals which are used in the manufacturing. So we have got gallium, we have got other strontium, right? These are some of the critical elements, semiconductors, which are used in semiconductor industries or new and emerging technologies. So therefore, China actually is dominating the critical supply chain, the supply chain of the critical minerals, and therefore it becomes natural for other countries to depend on China for that. India's imports from China continue to grow, surpassing $60 billion in the first 7 months of 24, 10% increase compared to $55 billion in the same period during the last year. In financial year 24, imports from China exceeded $100 billion. Look at the dependency which India has on Chinese imports. See, again, I'm not saying that we are not focusing upon the manufacturing. And like just before a few days, I covered the manufacturing aspect. We have to focus upon the manufacturing sector in general. And there has to be adequate impetus on that. Chinese manufacturing is way ahead than India, right? It's the assembly line of the world, be it for the US, be it for the other countries. So adequate incentives have to be given to the Indian industry. Again, what we need to understand, the whole crux of the article is that we need to make our own domestic industries more competitive, right? And when it comes to the review of the trade deal, obviously it is very important. We cannot have a situation where you have a trade deal, you actually initiated a trade deal, and that is actually not benefiting you. In fact, it is actually leading to more losses. So this can obviously not be accepted, and therefore a proper review has to be made. This is what you need to know with respect to this particular article. Now coming to the next article, it is with respect to the PM Internship Scheme. See, recently we found that in the budget, there was a proper package with respect to the employment and skills generation in the country. So again, this is a particular scheme, a part of that package, the PM Internship Scheme. Now, this is primarily focusing upon developing the skills, upgrading the skills of the workforce. See, just understand the crux of the article. The crux of the article is that in India, we have got a situation where people are primarily, majority of the people, either they are low skilled or they're unskilled, right? And the industry requires a definite skill set, right? Every industry has a requirement of a definite skill set, be it the oil and gas, be it the banking and financial industries or other industries, be it the education industry. So you need to have that adequate skill set with you. In order to make sure that these skills are imparted to these youths, what the government has come up with this particular internship scheme. So the government is trying to focus, it's trying to facilitate, it's trying to bring the private sector on board so that they can offer adequate incentives, adequate internship programs to the youth. And with the help of these trainings and these skills, they can then have proper employment opportunities. That is what the whole crux is. In this article, you have got a lot of technicalities which says how program is being run, the pilot projects, what all sectors are being covered, how much the government is trying to, it's actually spending upon the stipend of these people, right? So we look at the different aspects. Again, what is the importance of skill development before we discuss this topic? See, first, it keeps you competitive. In this particular competitive world, the competition is very cutthroat. You need to have added skills. You need to have all those aspects with you, which gives you a more advantage than others. So then it makes you competitive. If you have got skills with you, definitely it would make you competitive. Next, it enhances your personal growth. Obviously, once you'll have new skills, it would definitely have an effect, a good effect, a positive effect on your personal growth. Next, it enables the career growth. When you acquire skills, obviously it leads to more career growth. Next is it increases job security. Obviously, so you have got, if a person is constantly focusing upon acquiring different skills, it would definitely enhance the job security aspect. Next aspect is that it boosts your earning potential. Definitely, it gives you an incentive to earn more. Next is it improves the job's satisfaction. Very important. So once a person is skilled, definitely he or she enjoys doing that particular work. So therefore, the job satisfaction is more. So that is these are the important points with respect to the importance of skill development. Now, what this article says is that the youth applicants from the age of 21 and 24, they can now apply in the PM Internship Scheme, where the government is opening the registration window. So almost 80,000 internship opportunities across 737 districts and 24 sectors are made open, are listed on the platform. And almost, we have got the particular portal of the scheme with 5 states. We have got the 5 states of Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Karnataka, and Uttar Pradesh, right? So they account for over 56% of the total listed internships, right? So for example, let's say we have got Maharashtra. So total number of internship opportunities, it's the highest in Maharashtra. Then you have Tamil Nadu, then we have got Gujarat, then we have got Karnataka, and then we have got Uttar Pradesh. The Prime Minister's schemes, internship schemes, it aims to provide internship to 1 crore youth in the top 500 companies in the 5 years. Can be important for the prelims. Again, I'm repeating, it aims to provide internship to more than 1 crore youths in 500 companies over the next 5 years. Next is that over the last 1 week, the portal has added more than 80,000 internship opportunities in 24 sectors. What are all these sectors? Let's say the oil and gas industry, the travel and hospitality, then we've got automotives, banking, finance, and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs is the implementing ministry. So they can have a probable question that which of the following ministries is the implementing ministry for the PM Internship Scheme? It is the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Now, the highest internship opportunities have been listed for the oil and gas sector, right? Then you have got listings for the manufacturing, and then you have got for the banking and financial sector. You don't need to memorize it. There's no need to memorize it. But again, have a track. Just know what are the figures. Just know what is the trend, Next is the PM Internship Scheme. It aims to ensure the skilling of our youth, which would enhance their employability. As I told you in the beginning, the objective is to enhance the overall skills so that it can lead to more employment opportunities for these people. Internship in the top 500 companies in India for the 12 months. Then we have got different companies, for example, Mahindra and Mahindra. Then we have got Max Life Insurance who are participating, and other companies are also coming. So again, once this portal was opened, there were issues with respect to the registration, primarily with respect to the OTP, right? So these are some of the issues with respect to the functioning of the scheme. Now, the pilot phase of the scheme, which will run through the several layers of matching profiles, aims to provide internship opportunities to 1.25 lakh candidates involving a cost of 800 crores. Around 1 lakh youth are expected to be enrolled in the internship scheme by December. Selected interns will be paid rupees 4,500 per month, a stipend through the direct benefit scheme. And then additional 500 would be provided by the company's CSR, corporate social responsibility. Very important, right? So just mention in the comment that how much of the corpus is spent by a company on the CSR activities. Let me know, right? So a one-time grant of 6,000 per annum for incidentals over miscellaneous coverage. Then we have got the reservation aspect. So reservation aspect would also be applied, right? Would be the same as for the government jobs. So we have got for the SCs, that is scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, and we have got disabled. If any of the family members, now what are the exceptions? So if you have any family members of the candidate who has earned over 8 lakhs income in the financial year 23-24, member is a permanent regular government employee, then such candidates would not be eligible to apply. Then you have got the graduates from IITs, IIMs, National Law Universities, ISR, and National Institute of Design, obviously, and then you have got the triple ITs who are also not allowed to participate in the scheme. See, again, what we are seeing is that many of the graduates, in fact, even from the IITs and IIMs, they are also facing the unemployment, right? So the situation is very grim with respect to the overall employment scenario. Now, the internship scheme was announced in the budget, Prime Minister's package for employment and skilling with overall outlay of 2 lakh crores. It aims to provide skill training to over 1 crore youth in the top 500 companies in the next 5 years and focus upon lowering, and it has focus upon those people with that of lower employability so that they can enhance their skills and then increase the employability levels. That is what you need to know with respect to this particular article. So coming to the next article, it is with respect to the docking of Chinese naval fleet at the Bangladesh port. Now, let's first talk about the crux. See, we have got the Indian Ocean region, and India from years, from the last 1 or 2 decades, has been asserting its regional dominance in the Indian Ocean region. But along with that, what we are actually finding is that there have been continuous increase of the Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean region, right? And presence, not just a normal presence, but presence in terms of the military presence. China has substantially invested billions of dollars in different countries around India. And this is a security threat for India. And this, what we obviously in geopolitical terms, we actually convey this as a string of pearls approach by the Chinese, right? So we look into it. So this article says that the Chinese naval fleet, it visited Bangladesh on Saturday, becoming the first foreign fleet to do so since the interim government. We know that as of now we are having the interim government after the, when Sheikh Hasina came to India, then we had the interim government, and in this phase of interim government, the Chinese government is the first one to have a naval fleet in Bangladesh. And the China-Bangladesh relations will continue to grow. Now, this has been said by the Chinese ambassador to Bangladesh. Again, China and Bangladesh are comprehensive strategic cooperative partners. Bangladesh has been building a dock in Chittagong. Important position. Remember, Chinese have helped build this particular Chittagong port, right? Next is, the facility had earlier attracted the attention as it has the potential to host submarines and warships. Obviously, if you will have Chinese submarines and warship near India, that is a very grave security threat for India. The Chinese fleet will be stationed in the Chittagong port for 4 days and host a series of events, including bilateral meetings, receptions, ship open days to enhance the China-Bangladesh relations. Now, let's first talk about this string of pearls approach. It can be important for both the prelims and the mains. The string of pearls strategy, it is a geopolitical approach by the Chinese, and it aims at expanding its influence in the Indian Ocean region. How? The strategy involves establishing a network of military and commercial ports, right? So we have got Chinese investments which are being made at different countries around India, right? So if you just look at this map, it would be very clear to you. So we have got Chinese investments in the Gwadar through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now the CPEC is a part of the larger Belt and Road Initiative of the Chinese. And China has invested more than $60 billion in this CPEC. And one of the most important pillars is Gwadar Port. Look how close this port is that of India. Again, obviously it is a security threat for India. Next is that China has also implemented a lot of projects in Malé, capital of Maldives. Then China has a port in Hambantota, that is in Sri Lanka. It has a port for a 99 years lease, right, which has been given by the Sri Lankan government. Then we have got the Quoc Phu port in Myanmar. So China has invested billions of dollars in this particular project. So again, what we are trying to say is that China is trying to encircling India, right? And that is what we call as string of pearls theory. So this concept of string of pearls, it was basically popularized by a US Department of Defense report, which gave the word string of pearls, which detailed China's investments in Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Next is that the key elements of the strategy includes Gwadar port in Pakistan, as I just told you. Then we have got the Hambantota port. Then we have got the other ports, for example. If you just also look at the African part, right? So we have got the Tanzania, the country of Tanzania, where the Chinese have financed a port, right? And then we have got a particular rail link which was built between Port Sudan and Khartoum in Sudan. And this was built in 2016. So it is not just restricted to the Asian countries, but it is also going in the African part. China's ambitions with a string of pearls include ensuring maritime security and safeguarding energy supply routes. Again, China suffers from one of the other important dilemmas, what we generally call as the Malacca dilemma, right? So Malacca is a strait. We have the Strait of Malacca, a very narrow passage through which majority of the supplies of the Chinese, primarily its oil supplies, are transported. So this is a very important route. So therefore, in order to secure the supplies, you have Chinese presence in this region, right? So as I said, the China has invested almost $60 billion, more than $60 billion in CPEC as a part of BRI. India views this strategy, obviously, as a threat to its regional dominance. And it's prompting to strengthen its maritime through different capabilities. So we have got Sagar Doctrine, security and growth for all in the region. More so, what we are doing is that we are constantly interacting with different partners. We have got the Colombo Security Conclave. We have got the establishment of coastal surveillance radars in different countries around India. So we have been having good relations with the countries, our neighboring countries, especially in the water domain, maritime domain. So therefore, because we want and we are a regional power with respect to the Indian Ocean region, and we cannot allow Chinese to actually, through its aggressive policies, be a part of this region. So this is what you need to know with respect to the string of pearls theory. So coming to the next topic, it is with respect to the PM GatiShakti. So what the article says is that more than 208 big ticket projects which are from different ministries, including roads and railways, worth more than 15.39 lakh crores have been recommended for approval under the PM GatiShakti initiative, right? So we will see what PM GatiShakti is all about. Projects had been recommended by the Network Planning Group. Now, see, first let's talk about the crux. The crux is that we have got different ministries who are implementing projects. There is a lack of coordination among different ministries, and this leads to project delays. This leads to inefficiencies on the part of the delivery of the project. Please understand, let's say a road is being built in a particular panchayat area. So there has to be constant, I'm just saying for the sake of for example, so there has to be constant interaction between Ministry of Panchayati Raj and that of Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. But the coordination is not there. So obviously it leads to project delays. In order to make sure that this silos structure, working in silos, is actually broken, and then we have got proper integration of different ministries so that there is a proper communication channel which is maintained, we had this particular PM GatiShakti mission. This is what you need to know, the crux is, right? So on the 75th Independence Day, Pradhan Mantri, that is Prime Minister, he announced the PM GatiShakti initiative. This digital platform is designed to bring various ministries, including railways and roadways, to ensure integrated planning and coordinated execution of different projects. That is what I told you. The initiative aims to provide seamless and efficient connectivity for the movement of people, goods, services across various points, and enhances the last, so that it can enhance the last mile connectivity and reduce the travel time. Please understand, one more point is important, that the logistics cost in India, logistics is what? Road, warehousing, transport, packaging, everything. It is quite high. It is to the tune of almost 12 to 13% of the GDP. If the logistics cost is high, obviously the final price of the product would be high, right? The logistics cost in the developed countries, it is almost 8 to 9% of the GDP. So we are also aiming to reduce the logistics cost through the PM GatiShakti, right? So that is also one of the aspects. PM GatiShakti incorporates infrastructure schemes of various ministries such as Bharatmala, which aims to connect different corners of the country with different lanes of highways. And then we have got the Sagarmala, which is a port-led initiative, right? Then we have got inland waterways, then dry and land ports. Then we have got Udan scheme, that is Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagarik. So different, it aims to basically link the different regions of the country with airport connectivity, right? Now, what are the 6 principles of PM GatiShakti? First is integrated development, as I told you. That is, it is not working in silos. It is working in an integrated manner. Next is multimodal infrastructure. So it is not just focusing upon just roadways or let's say just railways. It is focusing upon a multimodal connectivity. Then it is focusing upon last mile connectivity in order to ensure that there is proper last mile connectivity so that there is enhancement in the overall supply chain. Reduce ecological impact, very important aspect. So the projects should not hurt the environment negatively. Then expedited land acquisition, very important. So the land acquisition for different projects has to be taken on quick basis. Then minimized clearances. There should not be a host of clearances by different departments. There should be a single window clearance mechanism. So these are some of the 6 pillars of this GatiShakti. Now, what all sectors have been covered? Driven by 7 engines. We have got roads, airports, mass transport, logistics infrastructure, railways, ports, waterways. So this is a basic crux of this particular PM GatiShakti initiative. Now coming to the next topic, it is with respect to a very important sector of the Indian economy, and that is textile sector, and also a sub part of the textile sector, that is ready-made garments. So the article says that the ready-made garment is actually fueling the overall export of country. So the article says that the Indian textile sector would witness significant expansion with 11% year-on-year growth in the ready-made garment exports. A number of schemes and policy initiatives of the government aim to leverage and catalyze these inherent strength, and it aims to achieve the overall valuation. The market size of the textile is projected to increase to $350 billion by 2030. Then, while over 90,000 crore investments is expected to flow through the PM Mitra scheme and production live incentive schemes, we have got other schemes like National Technical Textile Mission. So this is a very good opportunity to discuss these 3 schemes. The first is PM Mitra. Now this stands for PM Mega Integrated Textile Regions and Apparel. This was primarily launched in the year 2021, and what is the objective of the scheme? This aims to achieve 7 mega textile parks across the country. Now this park will cover approximately 1,000 acres, right, and promote the entire textile value chain, from fiber to fashion. The goal is primarily to attract significant investments, boost employment, and enhance the competitiveness of the entire sector. Please, the objective is that you are actually providing these clusters with all the services, be it the power, be it the water, be it other services, constant electricity supply. So, once you make these clusters, obviously the whole productivity would also increase, and that would enhance the overall sector, the economic growth of the sector. Then production linked incentive scheme, we have talked this for many a times. That is giving you an incentive on the incremental production. Today you are producing X, next time you are producing X plus 2. So incentives would be given on plus 2 amount. That is an incremental growth. PLI focuses upon boosting manufacturing in the textile sector by offering incentives based on incremental sales. Total amount is almost more than 10,000 crores. PLI scheme for textiles targeting technical textiles and apparel manufacturing. Technical textiles, what we say is that they don't focus upon the decorative aspect. They focus upon the performance aspect, right? So we have got, for example, the geotextiles, the smart textiles, the medical textiles. Then we have got National Technical Textile Missions, right? So this was launched in the year 2020. Now this aims to promote the development of technical textiles, as I just told you. And the budget has been almost of 1,500 crores. Enhancing research and innovation, promoting manufacturing, and increasing the consumption of technical textiles across sectors, including agriculture, healthcare, and infrastructure, right? Then what the article is talking about, that the PM Mitra parks will attract investments of more than 10,000 crores. PLI scheme with total projected investments of more than 28,000 crores and a turnover of more than 2 lakh crores. Then the industry is also saying that there are issues with respect to the quality control order, right? Quality control order norms with respect to these particular products, right? So this is what you need to know with respect to this particular article. These 3 schemes become really important for your prelims. So coming to the next topic, it is with respect to the National Commission on the Protection of Child Rights. So we have got NCPCR. Now this has called for stopping the state funding of Madrasas. Now before we talk about this topic, we have got the NCPCR body. So the NCPCR is a statutory body. This was established in the year 2007. Under the Commission of Protection of Child Rights Act, its primary mandate is to protect and promote the child rights, ensuring their welfare, education, development, and addressing the other issues, for example, child abuse and exploitation. Now, it also mentions about RT Act. So it becomes important for us to discuss what RT Act is all about. That is Right to Education Act of 2009. Now, this mandates free and compulsory education for the children aged between 6 to 14 years of age, and it aims to provide equitable access to the quality education, emphasizing on the importance of inclusive education, especially for the marginalized sections. The Act applies to all schools, both government and private, ensuring a minimum of 25% and seats are reserved for disadvantaged children. The RT Act outlines few of the standards which are to be maintained by the schools. For example, establishment of norms, teacher-student ratios, qualification of teachers, and infrastructure standard for schools. There is also the provision of school management committees to involve parents and communities in school management. That is what you need to know. So what this article says is that the NCPCR has raised serious concerns with respect to the state of functioning of the madrasas and has called for stopping the state funding unless they comply with the right to education. What it tells is that we have got certain schools which are not obligated to basically follow the RT norms. We'll see what are those exceptions. Exceptions of madrasas from the RT Act has deprived children attending these institutions of quality education. The NCPCR has recommended a series of measures including stopping of state funding to madrasas boards unless they comply with the RT. Now, what are the exceptions to the RT? There are certain exemptions. For example, we have got the unaided minority schools, as we are just talking about madrasas. So institutions established and administered by the minorities, they are exempt from the provisions of the RT Act. Then we have got private schools, schools that are not receiving government aid. They are not obligated to follow the same rules as that of the government schools regarding admissions, infrastructure, and teacher qualifications. Then we have got the pre-primary education. So that is obviously not under the overall ambit of the RT. So the RT Act does not cover the preschool or nursery education. If you really want these education, according to what the NCPCR says, to align, to give quality education, you need to actually do away with all these exceptions, right? So overall, the RT Act significantly contributes to the promoting children's right to education. These exemptions raise concerns regarding the inclusivity and universality of the education for all the children. So therefore, what the NCPCR is saying is that stop state funding of these madrasas because they're not abiding by the RT norms. So first, they need to abide by the RT norms so that they can make the whole education more inclusive and more qualitative. That is what this article is all about. So coming to the last article of the day, it is with respect to the Tea Board of India. So the Tea Board of India is actually targeting an export of 400 million kg by the year 2047 from about 200 million kg as of now. It says that India is the second largest tea producer at 1,350 million kg. 21%, it gives you a very important data for the prelims. So do pay attention. 21% of the world tea production and fourth largest exporter, about 12% share, right? The vision is to sustain the production share and improve the exports with value addition for better price realization. It refers to the Tea Board of India, very important body. So the Tea Board of India was established in the year 1953 under the Tea Act of 1953. So therefore, it is a statutory body. Remember that. It serves as the primary regulatory body for the production, export, and marketing of tea in India. Objectives: the board aims to enhance the tea production, promote research and development, and ensure the welfare of the tea workers. Next is, it also provides the financial assistance and support to the tea growers, right? Focusing upon sustainable agriculture practices. Then research and development, it is also focusing upon research and development aspects on tea cultivation, pest control, product development to improve the quality. Then promotion, it promotes the Indian tea both domestically as well as internationally through various marketing strategies. Then the tea board is headquartered in Kolkata. It can be important for the prelims, right? A key region for the tea cultivation. Now, if you just look at the map, you can see that we have got different states. For example, we have got state of Assam, which is the largest producer of tea. Then you have got West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka. So these are the states where you actually find the tea cultivation. So that is it for today. I hope you really enjoyed the session. As you know that we have shifted to a new pattern. Do let us know through your likes and comments. That is it. All the best. Thank you so much.